Sorry to say this to you all, it's not a surprise to me and many others that Fox News is woke. The only real thing they had going for them was Tucker Carlson, and they got rid of that reportedly because of the Dominion settlement.
When honest people say what's true, calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful. At the same time, the liars who've been trying to silence them shrink, and they become weaker. That's the iron law of the universe. True things prevail.
But now we have this story from the post-millennial. Fox News instructed producers not to bash Dylan Mulvaney. Trans ideology, woke culture enforced in the workplace.
Everything as we know it is collapsing. In case you haven't noticed, our society and every major corporations in it are sinking. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. If this is your first time on the channel, definitely subscribe, follow us on Rumble, subscribe to our Patreon and give us a thumbs up. And let's get into it. I know that many of you guys have seen what's been happening in the news lately. A lot of corporations have been hopping on the bandwagon of wokeness, and even some corporations which were considered conservative / Christian are now hopping on the bandwagon of wokeness and pushing the satanic and ungodly gender ideology movement. Now, full disclaimer, this video is not about Fox News. This issue is much larger than Fox News. If you are conservative, which means you hold to certain Christian values, then your news and business dealings should reflect that. Apparently, Fox News is now telling people not to talk about Dylan Mulvaney. And Dylan Mulvaney has caused a lot of trouble in the media. I want to show you guys this short clip that explains why so many companies are going woke.
Why are so many companies going woke? There had to be some reason, and after some digging, I found it. The CEI, Corporate Equality Index, aka the Woke Credit Score. It's a made-up score based on how much a company is pushing woke issues. And who made up and gives this score? An organization called the HRC, a massive political lobbying group. Apparently, HRC sends representatives to corporations every year, telling them the kind of stuff they have to make visible at the company, give them a list of demands, and if they don't follow through, there's a threat that they won't keep their CEI credit score. And why do companies even care about this made-up woke credit rating?
If they get a bad score, then the woke investor funds start putting pressure on the boards. Woke activists are mobilized out in the streets. Advertising campaigns are shut down. Anyone that continues to do business with them will also be penalized. This is fascism.
Don't play their game, don't get their investment. And who is funding the HRC? Surprise, surprise, it's George Soros' Open Society Foundation. Now, this HRC has introduced this arbitrary credit rating to everything. States, municipalities, and even schools. Imagine that. There are people who are deciding what credit score an individual school can get. They threaten them by having these big funds withhold investments into them. We now have a made-up scoring system that doesn't physically exist, deciding how much digital money that doesn't physically exist companies get. And it makes people physically act a certain way. This is truly mind control.
Wow, this is mind-blowing. If you're in the political sphere, this is why certain politicians are pushing certain agenda. If you're in the corporate world, then this is why these corporations and companies are pushing these ideologies. It is purely despicable. It is satanic. It is incredible to know why these companies are going woke, because you can't just wake up one day and then make that decision just out of the blue. We know that the systems of the world, the power of the prince of the air is behind all of this. In addition to that, there is something strategic happening, and what we just saw is absolutely mind-boggling. If you're a parent, this is why our education system, this is why our schools are doing what they're doing with the gender ideology agenda. If you remember a few weeks ago, YouTube told Matt Walsh that he would be demonetized if he kept talking about Dylan Mulvaney and the gender ideology, religion in general for that matter.
Less than a day before I was hacked, we received word from YouTube that I had committed a series of alleged violations of their terms of service and also of their ad partnership guidelines, which will now lead to my demonetization and potentially being banished forever from the platform. Now, YouTube's ploy, what we have to understand about big tech, their ploy is to be intentionally vague about their guidelines. They won't tell you. They'll tell you you violated something, but they won't tell you exactly what it was or how that thing violates the guideline, because they want to afford themselves the latitude to demonetize and deplatform you whenever they feel like it. And that's really what's going on here. Of course, they just selected me and they said, well, it's your turn and we're going to look for a reason. In fact, they did tell us, though, they cited 3. There were a number of violations they claimed. They'd only tell us about 3 of them. All 3 of them, coincidentally, had to do with Dylan Mulvaney. Yeah. Now, I don't know, just coincidentally, YouTube decided you're not allowed to say anything about Dylan Mulvaney. YouTube has decided that I'm not allowed to use biologically accurate language when discussing Dylan, or presumably any other trans-identified person. And for what it's worth, it does not, for what it's worth, it doesn't seem that other channels are being held to this standard right now. So we were told by sources at YouTube that a decision to target our channel had come from the highest levels of the company. And they're looking for something, a reason to take us out. Now, of course, there is a way out of this jam. You know, the big tech, they're very generous and they'll give you a potential off-ramp. So if I simply respect the preferred pronouns and I stop accurately gendering people, then I can likely continue to do my show on the platform. I can get it remonetized after, a short probationary period. And I can continue making over $100,000 a month on YouTube ads, which is a huge part of how we produce and pay for the show. In other words, all I have to do, basically what they've told me, is I want to keep the money, that's fine, keep the platform. Just give up your integrity and your soul in its place. And to that I say, hell no. Hell no. No way. I mean, there is nothing to even think about. I would rather be demonetized than use someone's preferred pronouns one time. I'd rather you kick me off of every platform and banish me to Mars than use someone's preferred pronouns.
Now, I did a little bit of digging to understand why so many corporations, why so many companies are going woke. There had to be some type of an incentive telling them, hey, if you don't do X, then Y can't happen. Because as a business person, you cannot jeopardize your company by just pushing gender ideology when you know full well, for some of them, that your customers won't stand for it. There had to be something a lot deeper. So I did a little bit of digging and I found out about this organization or this alliance called GARM. GARM stands for Global Alliance for Responsible Media. So what is this Global Alliance for? What I found out will shock you, ladies and gentlemen. This is beyond anything anyone could ever think. The fabric of our society, the American society as we know it, is being ripped apart by satanic and demonic ideologies, and it's being done in a very strategic manner. So what is GARM? GARM is, as I said, the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. It is a cross-industry initiative. Let me point my thing here so you can see where I am. I'm right here. So it's GARM is the Global Alliance for Responsible Media. It is a cross-industry initiative established by the World Federation of Advertisers, right? It is established by the World Federation of Advertisers. So this is not something that's in some remote part of the world. This is a world federation. Think of the WEF, the World Economic Forum. Think of the United Nations. This is a global initiative. That's what this is. So the World Federation put this GARM together, this alliance together, to address the challenge of harmful content on digital media platforms. Now, what is harmful content? That is the technical term we need to define. Harmful content is anything, listen very carefully, is anything that is remotely anti-gender ideology. It is anything that is remotely anti-homosexuality. It is anything that is remotely anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ. And I promise this video is not about LGBTQ. We are simply defining harmful content. So harmful content, according to GARM, of course, they're not going to put it right there. You have to know that. So I was following a podcast where they define what harmful content is according to GARM. That's where I knew what harmful content meant. So harmful content is not what you think it actually is. Harmful content is anything that is anti-gender ideology. So the role and the goal of this Global Alliance for Responsible Media is this. So they ought to go on multiple digital media platforms and ban and demonetize anything that they deem is harmful content. And harmful content means anything that is anti-homosexuality, anti-LGBT, anti-gender ideology. In other words, any church that preaches against homosexuality, any organization, any ministry, any YouTube channel, any public figure such as Matt Walsh who speaks against this ungodly ideology is deemed to be harmful. They have a video I want to show you guys down here to see their plan. Hopefully we can play it. All right, let's go for it. So this is their plan, and they're very strategic about what they do, and they want many tools to be available. And these tools, they can flag certain words, flag certain people, and flag certain keywords that you're using, certain rhetoric that you're using that they deem as harmful. In other words, you're not allowed to say what you think is right or wrong about certain issues. They are the one who are the arbiters of what you're supposed to say and not say regarding certain issues. So let's play the video real quick.
So as we think about the next horizon, the next year, we're going to be looking at two areas. The short term in terms of driving implementation, what I would say is consolidating our wins, working with local markets and making sure that our tools are more accessible and are available for domestic marketers, domestic agencies, domestic wings of platforms to actually implement. And the fundamental thought here is if there's more awareness and there's more demand for safe media, is that we're actually going to make sure that there's the right supply side for it. The second area that we're looking at is the metaverse. So how do we actually start to look into the future and make sure that there are the safe...
You hear that? The metaverse. Of course, that would be implemented in the metaverse.
Safety practices in place in order for commercialization, let alone ad support to actually happen. So we're starting to think about those areas. And I think that the other sort of broader area that we're going to be looking into over time is how do we look at the overall attention flywheel? We know that these platforms grow through content that gets an audience, that gets data, that attracts advertising. It's been very easy and it's very cheap to get that flywheel to grow through harmful content, and we've seen that, and the safety floor actually allows for a bit of a stop.
You hear that? Harmful content. Harmful content, harmful content. And when they're talking about platforms, that's going, they're looking at Rumble. Rumble is a place where you can actually say and express yourself, say whatever you want about any type of subject. On Rumble, you're allowed to say, you're allowed to speak freely. They won't ban your channel. They won't ban your speech. They won't shut you down. They will not demonetize you. As opposed to YouTube, you cannot do that here. Now they're looking at Rumble and possibly other platforms. And I'm going to tell you in a little bit how they can do that.
Gap there. The question that's now over to the industry is, are we going to just sit at the floor, or are some of these platforms are going to actually take their flywheel and have a race to the top? And when you think about that, that's about real enrichment for consumers, real enrichment for brands, real enrichment for publishers as well as creators, which is a very exciting proposition.
Going forward, I'm super excited about the inclusion of the misinformation as a 12th category, the work that we are doing as well in terms of bringing the metaverse and bringing all of the knowledge that we already applying to the metaverse is something that really, really excites me. And of course,
and that's the reason why they want the metaverse. When you have the metaverse, it's this interoperability. Right? You have one platform, for instance, you have Instagram connected to YouTube, connected to Facebook, and connected to whichever other place you could name. And once you have that interconnection and that interoperability, if you ban something on Instagram, you can automatically ban it everywhere else. That's why they want everything under one major umbrella. And anything that they deem under that major umbrella, under that whole category to be harmful content, well, they will ban it. So that's the reason why Rumble, it's one of the platforms now they're trying to control. They can't control it just yet. Now, there is a bill coming up. It's a bill that will allow the government to manage the internet. I don't want to say too much about it because I haven't made too many research on that. It's a bill that will allow the government to manage the internet, manage social media platforms. Now they can't impose certain rules on social media platforms because they don't have that control just yet. If that bill passes, then they're gonna have the possibility to tell what social media platforms are supposed to do and not do. What type of people that social media platforms are supposed to let on their platforms and what type of people they're not supposed to. For example, remember what happened to a lot of people a few years ago on Twitter. So the truth is the problem. I have a video coming out this Wednesday regarding the truth. How the world is afraid of the truth. Make sure you tune in to watch that video this coming Wednesday. Now, a friend of mine sent me this post on Facebook. I don't want to show the person who shared it. And it was interesting, not in a good way, in a very bad way. So the person who posted it said, if you haven't been to Target lately, you should take a second to research their new clothing line in children's clothes. This is their new clothing line in children's clothes. Let's take a look at it. This is for children, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Heteronormativity is a plague, 3245. You know what heteronormativity is? A man and a woman being in a relationship. A normal relationship is a plague. Look at this one. Satan respects pronouns. And look at that one. I'm not going to say it. Look at that. And look at this one. Gender outlaw. This is completely demonic. Like I said, everything as we know it, ladies and gentlemen, is collapsing. What is the hope for our nation? What is the hope for this world? It's not in a president. It's not in a better tomorrow. It is in a person, and that person is the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Only Christ can do something for our society. And the way that he does that is by us, by you and I proclaiming the truth of the gospel. That's the only way he will save them. The society as we know it is collapsing, and it will collapse even further. It will collapse until nothing is left to save. This is it for this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to our Patreon. Make sure to subscribe to our Rumble. There's going to be a link in the video description, and there's going to be a link in the first pinned comment. And I will see you guys in the next one. With love in Christ, John Henry with the Gospel of Christ.